thought my last row was funny. Oh, sorry.
Hello and welcome to DSR Daily. I'm David Rothkopf, joined as ever by Riley Fessler. How are you, Riley?
Pretty good.
And Minna Stein. How are you today, Minna?
Happy it's Friday.
Happy it's Friday. Well, why don't you kick us off?
Absolutely. Hunter Biden pleaded guilty to federal tax charges on Thursday, avoiding a trial to set start in Los Angeles. Initially, he proposed an unusual plea deal where he would maintain innocence but concede to evidence of guilt, which prosecutors rejected. The charges involve failing to pay over $1.4 million in taxes, with accusations of extravagant spending and fraudulent deductions. Biden faces up to 17 years in prison, with sentencing scheduled for December 16th, and continues to deal with separate gun charges in Delaware.
Yeah, boring. That's a boring story. Let's be honest. Nobody really gives a shit about Hunter Biden anymore. They were only going after Hunter Biden because Joe Biden was the president and he was going to be the candidate. But he's not the candidate. So now you've got this poor schlep who's gone through all these horrible things in his life. He's trying to adjust. He's trying to pull his life back together. And, he's got to deal with cleaning up the mess that he made. He's doing that in the way that, he specifically says spares his family the most pain, which is by making a guilty plea and making it so nobody else has to go through a trial, including us and the public who, as I mentioned earlier, don't really care at this point. So this is a story that is sort of shuffling out of the public consciousness, and this is one of the last glimpses you'll have of it. Riley?
See, I don't think that's boring because it's another story about Hunter Biden being awesome.
Wow. Holy.
You heard it here first, folks.
Oh, what?
Minna loves tax crimes.
Whoa.
If Hunter Biden has no fans, I'm dead.
Oh my God. Hunter Biden actually apparently seems to have one fan, folks. I was wrong. It's Minna. That's really perverse. Well, we'll have to get into that at some point, or perhaps we'll give Minna her own show called
the Hunter Biden fan corner.
Minna loves Hunter. And, with a heart. You know what I mean? It'd be kind of
exactly. I see the vision.
Yeah. Well, let's mull that one. Riley, what do you have for us?
I have more boring stories, but consequential ones. The Labor Department's August jobs report is set to be released today, with economists, the Federal Reserve, and political candidates closely monitoring it. The report follows a spike in the unemployment rate in July to 4.3%, raising concerns about a broader slowdown in the labor market, potentially signaling a recession. The Federal Reserve may use this data to guide its upcoming interest rate cuts, possibly opting for a larger reduction than initially planned. Despite warning signs like fewer job openings, cooling wage growth, and reduced work hours, layoffs remain low and consumer spending continues. However, certain groups, including young, Black, and Hispanic workers, are disproportionately affected by the labor market softening, and job seekers are facing a tough market.
You don't have to be a psychic to predict what's going to happen here. Donald Trump will attack this number, whatever the number is. If the unemployment goes up, he'll say, see, unemployment is rising. If unemployment doesn't go up enough, he'll say, see, the economy is stagnant. I don't know. He'll say some kind of bullshit because he's going to try to politicize it. And Democrats will do the same thing in reverse. But here's the thing. The federal government doesn't have as much control over this as they'd like to say that they do. And for average folks, what's really relevant here is almost inevitably there's going to be an interest rate cut, which is going to mean it'll be a little cheaper to get a mortgage, a little bit cheaper to borrow money generally, and that'll stimulate the economy. And if this number is, as Riley suggested, as predicted, maybe that interest rate cut will be slightly bigger. Instead of 0.25%, maybe it'll be 0.5%. But this is, because it's September whatever it is, sixth, the second to last one of these will get before the election, and people will try to use it as fodder to influence this still irrationally close contest. Minna?
Colin Gray, the father of the 14-year-old boy who shot and killed 4 people at a Georgia high school, was arrested and faces charges including second-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter for allowing his son to possess a weapon. This case follows a precedent set by the Crumbleys in Michigan, highlighting efforts to hold parents accountable for their children's involvements in school shootings. Authorities are investigating how the suspect obtained the gun and gained access to the school amid broader concerns about preventative measures and law enforcement role in such incidents.
In our podcast yesterday with David Hogg and Nell Scoville, we talked about this, and it's quite clear. And it's law in some places, like in Michigan. But parents who have guns, who let those guns fall into the hands of their kids, or who even encourage their kids to use guns, and who resist outside efforts to address potential problems with those kids, need to be held accountable. In fact, we will go a long way towards addressing our gun problem with 2 accountability steps. 1, make parents accountable, and 2, remove the law that protects gun companies from being accountable. They should be accountable just like any other companies. Of course, they're been protected by the NRA, which controls the Republican Party largely, and is controlled, and this is going to come as a big shock to you guys, but with a chunk of Russian money. The NRA, as we know, has been closely tied to the Russians. It's part of a much bigger effort by them to do things that they think weaken the United States. They didn't invest in the NRA because they think it strengthens the United States. So take it from any angle. We've got to fix this problem. Arresting this guy and holding him accountable is probably a good idea. Minute.
It's my turn.
Oh, so sorry. So sorry. I was just so galvanized by the roster of great stories we have today.
You must, of course, be referring to my next story, which is about the potential blocking of Nippon Steel's $15 billion merger with U.S. Steel by President Biden on national security grounds, which has caused tensions between the U.S. and Japan. Japanese officials, though publicly restrained, are apparently privately concerned, viewing the move as treating Japan as a threat. This controversy risks straining relations at a time when both nations are deepening ties to counter China's growing influence. Japanese officials argue that the merger would benefit both countries, but U.S. steelworkers' opposition and national security concerns have complicated the situation, possibly discouraging future foreign investment in the U.S.
Well, it's not going to help, foreign investment in the United States if we take this kind of protectionist stance. But what did you expect in the middle of an election campaign? Where steel workers live a lot in places like Pennsylvania. They're important, and so nobody's going to upset the apple cart. From an economic perspective, does this make a lot of sense? Probably not. But this is about politics.
Representative Tony Gonzalez, a Texas Republican, warned on Thursday that the GOP is likely to lose its House majority in November due to internal issues and ineffective leadership. Speaking at the Texas Tribune Festival, Gonzalez criticized both parties for focusing on blame and oversight rather than addressing pressing issues like the economy and healthcare. He also faulted Texas Democrats for failing to convert their growing electoral support into victories. The National Republican Congressional Committee disputed his concerns, stating, "We disagree," according to National Republican Congressional Committee Press Secretary Will Reinert.
Yeah, well, those Republicans in the House, we've got to trust them. They're doing such a fantastic job. I mean, what the guy says is true. The Republicans will probably lose the House. That's a good thing, because if Kamala Harris is elected president, it will help her get things done. Uh, if Donald Trump is elected president, it'll protect us from him getting things done. And uh, having said that, the critique is probably fair, that the dysfunctional Congress is not getting, addressing issues like healthcare and the economy, as well as it could be. That said, let's get one myth aside, okay? The economy's in pretty good shape. We're the world's leading economy. We recovered from COVID faster than other economies. We've created more jobs in the past 4 years than any one term president has ever done. We have seen massive investment following things like the CHIPS and Science Act in new technologies in the United States, in the industries of the future. The stock market is hitting record levels, although that's not, a good indicator overall or on its own purely of economic health. Inflation is down towards the target range that everybody seeks it to be. Prices are down. The economy's in pretty good shape. It's an election year, so people are going to say it's not. And
That's Joe Mentum.
Joe Mentum. What did Minna have for breakfast here, Rob? I mean,
Minna had a bowl of sugar for breakfast.
Minna's like bubbling up here full of her Biden family love here, and it's fine. That's good. There's no harm in Joe Biden did a great job on the economy. He deserves some credit for it. I hope Minna will discuss it on the next episode of Minna Loves Hunter. Minna Loves Hunter.
The Biden crime family.
Whoa! What's going
uncovered?
Wait a minute. Now we're flipping completely.
I'm getting whiplash from this podcast.
Well, you know how that was like a conspiracy? I'm thinking like, what if I have like a crime? Because crime podcasts are successful, right? So what if I have a crime podcast where I debunk the rumor that the Bidens are a crime family?
I see.
Yeah, you might want to start with the Trump family, which is actually a crime family.
Nah.
Too easy. That's that. Yeah. That's that Florida public education kicking in.
Exactly.
Did they teach you about that? Was the Biden crime family something
about the Biden crime family? Yeah, I took a whole class on it.
I can just imagine. You probably took classes like that too in Ohio, there, Riley, didn't you?
I only heard the phrase Ohio and my ears perked up.
Yeah, well, I would just say, did they inculcate you with conservative family values in your high school?
No, not Ohio wasn't as bad as I was growing up. It was still a swing state, so I didn't get as much of that. But I'm sure now.
Was there any crazy in your education in Florida, Minna?
I wouldn't say there was any crazy in my education. However, Florida is an abstinence-only sex education state. So I would say that is crazy, but that was crazy in a lack of education, not what it was educated on.
So they have a sex education class in which they bring you all in a room and say, "Don't," and then you leave?
Pretty much, yeah.
See, we didn't have that. We had a relatively normal sex ed.
Yeah.
No abstinence only in Ohio.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
When I was in high school and the dinosaurs roamed the earth, sex ed was taught almost exclusively by gym teachers, and they didn't know anything. They were complete idiots, and so they would sort of read directly out of textbooks, and it was not a high point of the experience. In fact, I do not remember one single minute of that, and yet I have 2 daughters, so I must have learned something.
You got an A.
I got an A in the long term. All right, folks. We're a little punchy here. We hope to bring you interesting stories every day. They're really aren't a lot. I mean, obviously, all the ghastly things that are happening in Ukraine and Gaza are continuing to happen. And the election campaign is continuing to happen. And yes, it's still a big story that the Russians are trying to influence the election, but that was kind of yesterday's story, although I did write an article for the Daily Beast about it, which should appear on the Daily Beast at some particular point. Um, so there's a lot of stuff swirling around. And I think that story is going to get bigger, by the way. There's just something about the way the Republicans are reacting to it that makes me feel that they are frightened, that they're unnerved, and suggests that more people have been taking money from the Russians and know it. But, you know, perhaps those stories will resurface when we are back on Monday. Fortunately, because this is a short week, a 4-day week because of Labor Day, it's Friday. And so we're at the weekend again. So we've got some podcasts coming at you later today, including a new episode of Scylla Consciousness. But after you've listened to that, or perhaps while you're listening to that, have a good weekend. And we'll see you again here on Monday. Bye bye.